this morning, you were on my mind, and you were on my mind. I got some aches and got some pains and I got some wounds to bind. Went to the corner just to ease my mind, my pain. It was just to ease my pain. I got drunk and I got sick and I went home again. I got a feeling down in my shoes. It's way down in my shoes. I got to move on. Whoa, got to travel. Whoa, walk away my blues. Some aches and whoa, got some pains and whoa, got some wounds to bind. Woke up this morning, you were on my mind. All right, I'm featuring the great Canadian folk pop duo Ian and Sylvia tonight. It's wonderful to do these lovely songs from the 60s and 70s. So in terms of Canadians, let's see. I've done Stan Rogers, Leonard Cohen, Gordon Lightfoot just a couple days ago, and now Ian and Sylvia. And I have a couple more coming up. Both folks that are in their 70s, Joni Mitchell and Neil Young. So more Canadians to come. So Sylvia Tyson is kind of who I'm featuring tonight, mainly because she just celebrated her 80th birthday, and I got to see her back in 2013 at the Winnipeg Folk Festival up in Manitoba. And she did a wonderful show. It was the 40th anniversary of the Folk Festival, and she had appeared at the very first one back, I think, in 1974. So it was fitting and appropriate for her to be there, and she did a wonderful show. I was so pleased. It was on one of the smaller stages where it could be more intimate, and I was sitting maybe 20 feet away from her, and she was just totally wonderful telling stories. And what she said about that song that she wrote, You Were on My Mind, is that it was the first song she ever wrote, and it became a gold record million seller for the band out of San Francisco, We Five. They changed it a little bit, so I kind of did a little of their arrangement and a little of her original arrangement. But she joked that when you write a song that becomes a gold record, you kind of don't have to work anymore. You've done your done your bit and you're getting the royalties. So it did enable her to spend her life as a musician, and I think that's wonderful. So, all right, she was born on September 19th, 1940 in Chatham, Ontario, which is just kind of between Windsor and London. So growing up in Ann Arbor, I went up to London and Stratford to go to the Shakespeare Festival, and when I was in college, I went up to London to row against Western Ontario. And so she actually, grew up only maybe about an hour and a half from where I did. Her birth name was Sylvia Fricker, and so You Were on My Mind is copyrighted to that. And then she and Ian Tyson got married. Ian is still with us too. He's 87 years old. So, all right, the next song is called Darcy Farrow. It's not one that they wrote. It was written by, I believe, Steve Gillette, and I think his name was Tom Campbell. Yes, Tom Campbell. And it's a wonderful song. It sounds old. It sounds like a old folk ballad, you know, and it's very reminiscent of a lot of those kind of tragic love stories. And the names and places in the song are all in Nevada and California, kind of in the area just east of Lake Tahoe, around the Walker River and that area. So here we go, Darcy Farrow. Lovely song. Where the Walker runs down into the Carson Valley plain, there lived a maiden, Darcy Farrow was her name. The daughter of old Dundee, and fair was she, and the sweetest flower that bloomed o'er the range. Her voice was sweet as the sugar candy, her touch was as soft as a bed of goose down. Her eyes shone bright like the pretty lights that shone in the night out of Yarrington town. She was courted by young Vandermeer, and quite handsome was he, I am to hear. He bought her silver rings and lacy things, and she promised to wed before the snows came that year. But her pony did stumble and she did fall. Her dying touched on the hearts of us all. Young Vandy in his pain put a bullet in his brain, and we buried them together as the snows began to fall. They sing of Darcy Farrow where the Truckee runs through. They sing of her beauty in Virginia City too. At dusty sundown to her name they drink around, and to young Vandy whose love was true. Where the Walker runs down to the Carson Valley plain, there lived a maiden, Darcy Farrow was her name. The daughter of old Dundee, and fair was she, and the sweetest flower that bloomed o'er the range, the sweetest flower that bloomed o'er the range. All right, Darcy Farrow. Sounds like an ancient, love ballad of tragedy, but actually just written in the 1960s. And Steve Gillette, who wrote it, tells a story that he had spent time in that region in Nevada, and his younger sister had been kicked by a horse and injured, and it gave him the idea of writing this song. And got beautiful. It's been covered by many people. Nancy Griffith and Cindy Manxon, John Denver, all sorts. So it's a lovely song and new to me, but I'm really it was really fun to learn. So, all right, can't do Ian and Sylvia without Four Strong Winds. Their biggest hit in terms of popularity, and in fact, I read on Wikipedia that they had the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation had a competition and had people vote, and they decided that Four Strong Winds is in fact the greatest Canadian song of all time. So it's also the official provincial song for the province of Alberta, which gets mentioned in it. Just, great stuff. So, all right, this one was written by Ian, and it's a staple of hootenannies and campfire sings, and for ever since the late 1960s, early 1970s. So 1963 is the copyright. So one more thing I forgot to mention is that Sylvia played auto harp, kind of like Mother Maybelle, and also played guitar, but she was left-handed, and so she had her guitar restrung and played it left-handed. So if you look at pictures of Ian and Sylvia together, it's kind of like the Beatles with John and Paul, where they're having their instruments point in opposite directions. So it's kind of cool. So let's see, anything else in my notes? Greatest Canadian song of all time. So here it goes, and I sure hope you sing along, because if there's a definition of a sing-along, it's Four Strong Winds. So. Four strong winds, they blow lonely, seven seas, they run high, all those things that don't change, come what may. For the good times are all gone, and it's time for moving on, but I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. Think I'll head out to Alberta, weather's good there in the fall, got some friends that I can go to working for. Still I wish you'd change your mind if I asked you one more time, but they've been through that 100 times or more. Four strong winds that blow lonely, seven seas that run high, all those things that don't change, come what may. But the good times are all gone, it's time for moving on, but I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. If I get there for the snow flies, things are going good. You could meet me if I sent you down the fair. But by then it would be winter, not much for you to do. And the winds, they sure blow cold way out there. Four strong winds that blow lonely, seven seas that run high, all those things that don't change, come what may. Oh, the good times are all gone, and it's time for moving on, but I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. Four strong winds. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. This is show number 64 of my favorite singers and songwriters, Ian and Sylvia, the great Canadian folk pop duo. So celebrating Sylvia celebrating her 80th birthday just last month. So, all right, who's up next? It's Bob Dylan. Bob is not an octogenarian yet, but he will be very soon, come next May. So Bob is 79 years old, and show number 65 is going to be a tribute to Bob Dylan. I'll be doing Buckets of Rain, Tangled Up in Blue, and Boots of Spanish Leather. That'll either be Sunday or Monday. All right, thanks for listening. I love you all. I hope you're doing well in these tumultuous times, and I sure hope that music is a soothing balm to your nerves and your soul. So, all right, good night.